Hello and welcome back to Source OK, a podcast aimed to demystify events in Africa, talking to people in Africa and Africans. Today we're joined with Fatima, who is a front-end developer living in Lagos State, Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining. Please help me welcome Fatima.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Zainab. I'm very excited to be here.
Thank you for joining. In my previous episode, I mentioned this book called Why Africa is Poor by Greg Mills. In that, he compares a lot of different countries and the development throughout the years with countries in Africa. He mentioned some factors that help with growth and development. So I'm just going to list a couple of them and then we're going to talk about one of them today. So the first one is security, investment for the long term, and then social cohesion. So we'll be going through a longer list. He mentioned 7, but I've only mentioned 3 so far. In the coming episode, we'll be picking up all the different points and kind of like tackling it and getting a little bit deeper into understanding what they mean. Today, we're talking about like investing for the long term, specifically investing in education. So that's why I brought Fatima on today, which I'm so happy that you're here. So Fatima is currently working in education fintech company. She also volunteers for a company called Kids That Code, which is an organization that introduces children to coding from an early age. And it also teaches young boys chess in slums from underprivileged background. So I'm very pleased to have you today. So the first question I wanted to ask you is just about yourself, really. How has your school career been or educational path been coming from Nigeria?
Thank you so much for having me, Zainab. First, my name is Fatima. I am a Nigerian based in Lagos, Nigeria, and I am into the tech industry. I code for a living. I enjoy teaching coding. I have a YouTube channel where I teach people how to code. I also volunteer as a program manager for KTC, Kids That Code, which basically introduces kids to coding at a very young age, say from age 5, because we believe that those are their formative ages, and whatever you teach them then would really help in shaping them to be hopefully problem solvers in the future. To my educational background, so I had my primary school education in a staff school at Port Harcourt. Those were my early. I had my primary school and my nursery school there. Then I proceeded to a federal school for my secondary school, my high school. I had to come over to Kwara State for that. And after that, I proceeded to University of Ilorin, where I had my first degree in chemistry. I've always been a science lover. Yes, I studied chemistry, and after studying chemistry, I proceeded to having a master's degree in chemistry again. So I came over to Lagos State from Kwara State. I came over to Lagos State and I had my master's in chemistry last year, alhamdulillah. So I had my master's degree last year in chemistry. So far that has been my educational journey so far up to now.
Okay, so that's interesting. I didn't know that. So how did you get into front end engineering?
I get that a lot. So after finishing school, and I had to do the compulsory NYC, that's the National Youth Service Corps for all Nigerians after school. I started looking for a job because obviously that was the next line of action, and most offers that were coming to me were teaching, like basically teaching. And it's not as if I do not enjoy teaching, but I had some goals that I had set for myself, and the wages that were coming in as a teacher weren't encouraging, and I did not even have, because I got to know that for you to be employed to institutions that pay well, you have to be well connected. I never had those connections, so I was always falling into private institutions that could not even afford to pay the minimum salary wage then. So I started looking out for opportunities that could also enable me teach, because I actually enjoy teaching. I love it when I see someone that can attribute his or her success to my to like can also count me as one of the reasons why he or she has been successful in a certain chosen career path, or even in school, just mentioning my name, like something that I'm always very proud of, and I'm always like very fulfilled anytime I come across that. So I started making research, and along the line I came across that was 2020, 2020, late 2020. I came across a Lagos State program for empowering youths, and I applied to the program. I got into the program, and we were taught basic web development. So it was along the line that I decided to become a software developer, a front end developer. Along that line, yeah. So that was basically my journey for from chemistry. I wouldn't say I'm not like I don't want to believe that I have left chemistry entirely, because I'm still a chemist at heart. I'm always very so there are sometimes that I get myself involved in scientific research and how to integrate technology with science, just to make it easier.
Now that sounds super interesting, like how you can mix science and technology. If we can go back a little bit on kind of how was your primary school education, secondary school education, how did you feel like you were kind of like getting your money's worth, I guess, with education, with what you were learning and with your peers as well? Did you feel like you're kind of one of the lucky ones to kind of make it to go through all the way to the masters?
Yes, honestly, I'm always very grateful to my dad, my parents. They've always been very. I'm actually the firstborn, so maybe that's why they invested so much in me with education. Especially my dad. He always made sure that I go to the best. So for my primary school, I went to a staff school. So my dad used to be a NEPA staff, the Power Holding Company of Nigeria, and then they had schools for the staff's children. So then, and I could remember then that they were being paid as federal workers. So for you to teach in that school, you must at least have a degree in education. It wasn't just a school that you would see under qualified teachers. So we had the best teachers. I could remember then, even at my nursery two, no, I think nursery two, I could already read and write. I could read well. I could think. I could do a lot of mathematics as at that time, just because I had competent hands that were my teachers then. So that really helped me, shaped me. My school was so standard that they wouldn't allow you to states. So we had like there's state common insurance where you have to go to a state public school, or you go to a federal public school. So my school was so standard that you couldn't do state examination. They always aimed for us to do federal examination. That was, and as at that time, even if you were in primary four, you could attempt writing a JS1 examination. Then we were like, if you don't do well, you're going to repeat that class. There was no favoritism. It was not like there was nothing like double promotion. There was nothing like, so you were moving according to your pace, and they just planned us very well for the future, honestly. So my primary school still instilled that discipline in me, that you do not have to cut you don't have to go through the shortcut just for you to achieve your educational accomplishment. No, you have to be straightforward. You have to work hard if you want to really see a good result. As at then, we were even our parents, it got to a time that they were concerned for us, because I mean we're like 9, 10, 11 year old then. And if you see our school bags were usually very heavy with textbooks and assignment. We're always doing Saturday classes, we're doing extra classes, sometimes till 6 p.m. as at that time. So they really groomed up so well. So I would say my primary school is still the best out of my educational journey that I faced, that I've experienced, because there was nothing like, nobody was helping anybody. It's either you are good and you are good, or yeah, it's either you are not good and you have to go to. So then if you don't do well in your common entrance, your federal common entrance, you'll be made to either repeat the class, or you go to premise six, and that premise six you still have to write that federal common entrance. They want to make sure that everybody passes that exam as far as you're a student of that school. So that was my premise. So my secondary school, if you are very familiar with Nigeria, you know that unity colleges, so they are called unity schools. I went to Federal Government Girls College Omaru. They are also known for their top-notch delivery too. So there too, there's nothing like, nobody's helping anybody. I can remember my first entrance examination to the university, the JAM. I had my first score was two, I think it was 290, or I can't remember, but it was quite very impressive. And nobody helped anybody. They were very, very strict with us. They made sure that we wrote our exams ourselves, and there was nobody helping anybody. There was nothing like exam manipulation, exam malpractice, no. And they always made sure that if you do not pass, you have to repeat that class no matter what. So the boarding school, even during our public holidays, there was no opportunity for you to come home. Once you resume, you have to wait to the end of the term before you go home. But your parents would come see you at the end of every month to go. So there was a lot of discipline. That was where I learned to be very, very independent. My secondary school, so I learned how to be independent, how to read, because if you do not read, you're not going anywhere. So secondary school also shaped me too. And my university, if you know University of Ilorin, then my schedule then was from class to the hostel to the library. I was if you don't do that in University of Ilorin, there's no way you're going to pass. So University of Ilorin, if you are very used to Nigeria, is a definition of what you give is what you get. So if you do not do well, you are not going to come out well. And my master's degree, I kind of, maybe it was because I was already a master's student. It wasn't as strict as my BSc, my first degree. It wasn't as strict as that. I had, but here also there was no helping of anybody. That and here something I liked about my master's degree is that we did a lot of research. It wasn't just about reading. We had a lot of article reviews as a chemistry student. I had a lot of hands-on practicals that I could boost off. It was very, very interesting. For me, I've had like a very positive experience with Nigerian educational system, and I would say my case is not like the usual case. So it's not everybody that faces something like this. Some have had to struggle. I've talked with some people, and you understand that it is not their fault. It's just the foundation that they had when they were growing up.
Yeah, that leads to kind of my other question was, do you know of any like family or friends that weren't able to kind of complete all the education levels that they initially wanted to? And if you do, why is that? Do you think it's because they just didn't like the learning environment that this school gave, or is it because of like expenses and it wasn't able to kind of afford it?
Okay, I don't think I have anyone close, but I think I can still answer that question, because in Nigeria, so you have to cut your clothes according to your size. It's not, if it's about affordability, there are public schools, but they will not give you as much quality as you get in a private institution. And there are some so when it comes to people finishing school, so I've had people that I know that have struggled so much. I see them read, I see them go for night classes, and yet they still do not just understand. So there are sometimes that if you trace it back, it has to do with their formative years. Which school did they go to when they were in primary school? Some people have not. Some people went to very terrible nursery school. So there are some private schools in Nigeria that are I don't even know if to call them schools. So there are some that they would employ high school leavers to come and teach children, people that do not even have the zeal to be teachers, people that just found themselves teaching. So imagine someone like that. You do not really have anything to offer, and yet you're a teacher to small or to little children, and you are there forming part of their formative years, their formative learning experience. So people like that, they kind of struggle when they get to secondary school, because in secondary school it's much tougher. In secondary school you have to start learning how to read. In primary school you could go away with not reading and just getting a grade and passing to the next class. But with secondary school it's more stricter. That's where you see students struggling, and you be like, how did you go? How did you get to secondary school? And you find out that it has to be with the system of education that they passed through. So if it's about funding, there are many government institutions, although government institutions are supposed to employ very competent hands, but the situation we find ourselves in this country is that it's a thing of recommendation. So you see people that that have taken education as their last resort. They've looked for job, and they've not got, and they just be like, oh, let me just go and teach. And they know somebody that knows one chairman that would give them a letter. They won't even go for interviews sometimes. You see them teaching children and taking. So that's why most parents in Nigeria try their best to send their kids to private institutions. At least with private institutions you are open to better educational option. But with public is quite affordable. So the issue of affordability is not, I don't think it's there. It's just for you to be willing to go there. So it's almost free. I don't think there are some secondary schools, especially in Lagos. There are some schools that they even help them pay their from for government school. They help you pay for your external examination, and your school fees is almost as you can even be termed as you attending school freely. They just want you to come to school, but yet the quality of what they get is not usually good.
Why do you think that is?
The corruption, like I said, so many staff, so many of them don't go through the correct recruitment process. So you just have to know somebody in the government institution. You just have to know like a chairman, someone in politics that can give you a recommendation letter, and before you know it, you get employed. So most of the time it is who you know that would. So they end up getting people that are not qualified to be teachers. So many people that do not have any form of degree, any form of experience teaching.
Okay, okay. So we've kind of like highlighted some important points. So obviously you said corruption and a little bit on like resources. So there's a little statistics that I wanted to read out from the Guardian website, which says that since 2020, education budget is nearly half of low income countries, diminished by an average of 14%. At the same time, more than 20% of total spending went to service debt. So, in kind of like the same breath that we've just talked about, it seems that maybe these countries are prioritizing paying off debt or spending on other economic issues rather than spending on maybe education and government schools. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I totally agree. It's something that we see. We see it every day in Nigeria. If you could remember, one of the reasons that made me sort out to other career paths was actually the payment. Teachers are underpaid. So there are sometimes that you do not have to blame these teachers. You go to schools and you see them selling. They are like half teachers, half market women in the school, because they have to just survive and they have families to fend for too. So teachers and lecturers are underpaid. Teachers in secondary and primary school, they are underpaid. Like teachers are always the least when it comes to budget implementation. the government does not really do much for teachers at all, at all.
That's really interesting. So which kind of like points into kind of what I mentioned, kind of long term investment. I think there's an issue where they think that investing in education, you can't really see the benefit for a long term. So, for example, if you're trying to improve primary school education, you can't really see like the fruits of that investment of that child that's now 5. You can't see it that quickly, rather than kind of improving roads or transportation or other necessities, right? So maybe they're saying, okay, that's probably more important, and you can see it, the benefit of that more straight away. And for example, for presidents and political parties, they're only there for a couple of years, so they want to make sure that they do what you can see, and then it can be like, oh, I've built these roads, etc. So, what on your point of view, what would you say to them to say, no, you should be spending more X, Y, and Z on education rather than other stuff?
Yes, I totally understand. I agree with you. They are there for just a short period of time, and education, investing in education is a long term thing. You might not see the results within the years that you are in office. I agree with them, but still, education is very, very important. Imagine if they weren't educated, they are leaders too. How would they get the level of knowledge that they need to manage us? So education is something that, although it is it's not going to its result is not something that it's going to be immediate, but it would overall help us manage our country as a whole. Imagine if we had more educated, more exposed people, maybe our corruption level would reduce. People would know their rights more. People would be able to fight for their rights. The country itself would be a better place. And even okay, so during the lockdown, when most of them were forced to be in the country and access medical facility within the country, they got to know about first-hand experience of what our doctors are like, our healthcare workers, and these are people that are schooled in the country. These are people that had their education in the country. They got to know that they were not as bad as they thought that they were. They were not as bad as they were thinking the healthcare workers were. That basically what they lacked were resources to make them better doctors and better healthcare workers. So generally, they shouldn't look at the present the immediate effects of investing in education. They should look at if they are really there to help the country. Because I believe as a public servant, your main aim of holding a public office is to be the servant of the country and make the country a better place. If that is truly your goal, then you should be open to making some decisions, investing in some resources that would later tell on in the future. So if I remember my dad used to say that he had free education during his time. I can't remember the government that was there, but there were some people that actually invested in this education, people that brought education to Nigeria, people that wrote our curriculum, people that these are the people that helped shaped Nigeria to a better Nigeria. Imagine if we were not educated, it would have been worse than this. So they shouldn't look at the present. They should always look at how their investment is going to help the country as a whole in the long term.
Hmm. Thank you for that. So recently, the African Union has declared the year of 2024 as the year of education. So I'm just going to read a little bit from their concept note, which says, quote, amid so many other serious global matters, this summit has deemed urgent and given priority on grounds that globally, education is in deep crisis and progress towards the attainment of Sustainable Development Goal 4 on education was badly off track. How does that make you feel that now African Union has taken kind of 2024 as the year of education? Does that make you feel like something's going to change, hopeful or not really?
Hopeful, honestly, that's just the word because we've had SDG goals come to. We've had so many goals, and yet we are still where we are. But we're hopeful that this is going to work because part of what is still making us underdeveloped is our lack of exposure, lack of education. We are not as educated as we should be when compared to people in other parts of the world. Our education is still, we are still using education resources that were given to us during independence, before independence, and still applying it to our daily lives now in 2024, which is not going to work because times have changed, and I just hope that they take actions that would actually help actualize that goal because we need it for development.
Yeah. And I mean, and I know you're not a politician. Like, where would you start? Would you start from like, okay, let's build the curriculum and improve the what they learn in school? Or would you start off like, okay, let's get the teachers first, even though they're teaching all the curriculum, let's at least get the teachers there. Or would you start on like funding? Like there's so many different type of areas that you can kind of start off from.
I think I would go for funding because if I should currently the system is in place already. We have teachers. If I should go for increment in their salary, we still have people. Would there be a process that would help filter out the under qualified teachers that are within the system? And how do we handle the cases of politicians bringing in their subordinates as teachers? So I would go for funding. So with funding, at least it is tailored towards a certain section of education. It could be technology, it could be STEM, it could be science, technology, and it could be research, which would help. And I think the government is actually doing well when it comes to funding of research by universities, though, but not it is not being extended to secondary schools and primary schools. No. So I think I would start with funding to specific fields in education because we actually need that. So recently everyone has. Oh, okay. So what we do, I don't mean to digress, but I noticed as a program manager in Kids That Code, where we teach children early access to coding and software development as a whole. I noticed that most of these children they do computer in school as a course, but they do not have the work. They do not. They teach them. I don't even know how to put it because they actually do the course, but if it's most some of them do not even know how to work their way around. And we could pin that to resources though. They do not know anything about the computer. They don't know how to start a computer, and they are being taught everything theoretically. There's no practical aspect to that teaching. So if there were to be funding for that, I would like do more on that, buy more computers in schools and all of that to help just.
Okay, now that makes sense. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Um, that's honestly like super great conversation already, and it was super insightful to kind of hear your experience and your point of view on this, especially as someone that has gone through like basically all the stages of like education and you've kind of have a first hand experience on it. What I want to do on this podcast is make sure that we don't just kind of have a conversation on this, but we actually take some actionable points away, and then we kind of like maybe start a movement or just even just one or two things. So like what action do you think you have for me, someone that's listening to this that might not be actually in Nigeria or in Africa per se, that you think we should do, and what action do you have for someone that is in Nigeria, that they should do for it that you can think of?
Okay, so for someone in Nigeria, one of the something that is very painful that is happening now is the level at which people go for exam malpractices. So kids these days do not want to read, and you see their parents helping them. by paying special agents to help them take examinations and all of that. So I would advise, I would plead on anyone that is in Nigeria. I mean, change starts with you. If you have the ability to stop that, it could be your cousin, your niece, your nephew that wants to go ahead and be involved in exam malpractice, or have someone else write an examination for that for them. Do your best to try to stop them. It is not good. It is making, so employers complain these days that we have a lot of graduates in the country, but yet they are unemployable, because most of them were not qualified enough to have graduated, and they ended up graduating. So if you have the ability to stop that within your means, please do not allow people to be engaged in that. And also, if you're a teacher, if you're a teacher, I want you to know that you are very important in the lives, or in our lives in Nigeria, because you are involved in the development circle. Education is the bedrock of um, any thriving community or country. Is I want you to take your job seriously. I want you to see yourself as a savior and help these children groom them with the right resources and the right knowledge that would help them grow and be better in life. I mean, it is a thing of joy. It is a proud moment for you to see students that have gone through, you succeed and become very productive people in the society. So for people that are not in Nigeria, if you have the ability, please, I would really urge you to fund. So we have different programs that you could fund in Nigeria. You could go to local governments that do not have access to computers, access to laboratories, access to good teachers for a certain subject in school. You could volunteer to pay their it's paid the teacher's salary. You could volunteer to just set up a laboratory or set up a computer lab for them. Funding would go a long way in helping. Just there are lots and lots and lots of schools that do not have resources to teach well.
Those are really good action points that I think everyone should take away and try and work on. I will add reliable links in the episode description below. Do you have anything else that you would like to share that we haven't covered?
So about our curriculum, I would really love that the government take a better look at our curriculum, because we have employers complain that Nigerian youths graduate every year, and yet just a very few percentage of them is employable, and that's because they do not have working experience, not like working, but they do not they can't defend the degree they say they have. So imagine someone that studied engineering that do not have an idea of um how to solve problems practically as an engineer, but they know the theoretical parts. So if they could inculcate that into our curriculum and help in our curriculum, I'm very sure that it would help. It would even help some of them, if once they are well equipped with the practical knowledge. Some of them do not even need to look for a job, which would help us like reduce the level of unemployment in Nigeria. Because if you know if you study computer science and right in school, you've been coding, you've been exposed to so many software development tools and all that. After school, you do not necessarily need to get a job in a company before you can try. You can always be a freelancer and continue working as a software developer, same as an engineer. So if they could add more of practical into our curriculum, I'm very sure that it would help us.
Okay, that was a super deep, insightful session for me, and I hope it was for you as well. I would like to take this opportunity to ask you, the listener, what comes to mind when you think of education? Education anywhere in Africa, in wherever you are at the moment, your current education, your past education, the future of education, anything regarding education, what first comes to mind? Please let's think of the actions that Fatima mentioned in the episode and let's really look into how we can work on it. I will link some important websites in the episode description. Please let's have a look at it and let's start this conversation. Sarasoke is an independent podcast brought to you by yours truly. Please like, share, and leave a comment. It really helps. See you at the next one.